Welcome back. Now, it has been a historic election for the UK. This as the region's recent visit to the polls resulted in a swing from the right to the centre left. A landslide victory as with the Labour Party's first win in 19 years, while the Conservatives suffered their worst defeat in its 200-year history. Joining us now with greater perspective on the election win is Roger Gewolb, who's the leader of the Campaign for Fair Finance and also former advisor to the Bank of England. Roger, a pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Wonderful, Roger. Maybe we can start off by just reflecting on this win for the Labour Party. I've heard many say this is actually a vote against the Conservative Party as opposed to a vote for the Labour Party.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true. It was a landslide victory with only 33% of the vote.
Sure. I want to speak about what might have led to those sentiments amongst citizens in the UK. Roger, what was it about the leadership of the Conservatives that had voters want to basically punish them at this rate?
Yes, I think that's probably right. It's been 14 years of promises not delivered, an awful lot of gaslighting and really ignoring the electorate that put them in office, demeaning them, acting privileged and entitled, sex scandals, other scandals, money scandals, just a huge embarrassment of people that act as if they're a privileged class without delivering very little to the British public, and they just got sick of it.
I also would like to speak then also just about the aftermath of Brexit and if that was also a legacy issue for the Conservative Party. And as the Labour Party takes over here, of course, we know that there's still quite a bit to be done for Brexit to be finalised in the way that it was initially imagined. Where does that sit?
It's a good question. I mean, the Tory party, as a party, it seems, never really wanted Brexit. So they basically, as part of what I just said, not caring about the people who elected them, treating them like idiots, just ignored the will of 17.5 million people who voted for Brexit and never fully implemented it. So Brexit has not produced the benefits fully that it was supposed to. In some ways, we haven't even really Brexited after 4 years. And this government did everything it seemingly could, it looks like, to drag its heels and not actually make Brexit happen. Now, Labour absolutely swears they're not going to reverse Brexit and go back and join the European Union, but they're just full of weasel words that they'll have closer relationships and pacts and blah, blah, blah. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they do go back to the European Union in all but name.
And it's also very interesting, I think, to see the British economy battling. I mean, it battled as the whole world saw issues with inflation and growth. I'm just keen to get also then a snapshot of the kind of economy that the Labour Party then also takes over here, Roger, and maybe some of the important reforms that British citizens would like to immediately see for their vote to count for something.
Well, the Conservative government, the Tories, my personal view is that they've wrecked the British economy. They have not stimulated growth. So growth is the lowest among the G7 countries. It's an embarrassment. There hasn't been real business investment since 1990. If there had been normal business investment since then, as there was in that year, think tanks estimate that there would be almost 2 trillion more in the bank account, in the treasury. And they've taken us to the highest taxation of almost any European country, the highest taxation since Her late Majesty's coronation, for goodness sake. They aren't conservatives. They don't believe in low tax. They've just gouged the country in the middle of a cost of living crisis, and they're hated for it. And they claim that they've made tax cuts, but those tax cuts are fake. And within 5 minutes, every time they announce one of these tax cuts, some think tank, some economics think tank comes out and shows that they actually mean that poorer people, lower earners, are actually paying more tax. That's how little they actually are in touch with people and care about them. Now, to answer your question, through all of this, labor has stood by and said absolutely nothing. And you would think that they would jump all over and beat the Tories over the head to show what a better party they would be, but they've done nothing, said nothing. We've had 14 consecutive interest rate rises, which did nothing other than inflate the inflation and delay the time by which it would have fallen by itself. And they still haven't reduced interest rates, even though the inflation has finally fallen by itself to the target level of 2%. You would think the Labour Party would have been banging the drums all along saying, for God's sake, what the hell are you doing? Bring the interest rates down. Take your foot off the throat of the country. Businesses are going broke every day. Households are suffering. People are still having to choose between heating and eating. And Labour says nothing. And instead they talk about other things with a lot of waffle. So, I mean, we really do have, in my opinion, just the most useless lot of politicians on both sides all over the place that one could imagine.
Well, that said, Roger, then I do take it that there isn't a new sense of optimism with this new government. Of course, the next few years can't necessarily all be a write-off. Are we expecting anything to go right?
I think there's a tremendous amount of optimism amongst longtime Labour supporters who are overjoyed that their party is back in power after 14 years in the wilderness. But apart from them, that's real classic British understatement you just made, where you said there isn't a lot of joy and optimism. No, I think people dread what's coming with Labour. Many people. I mean, you know, if 30% and a bit is what got them in, then 2/3 of the Brits, 68 million people, are not feeling optimistic at all today. It's just a mess. And it's gotten worse. As one of my followers tweeted, Dr. Roger, we now have a choice between stepping in dog muck or stepping in cat muck.
Wow. Oh boy, well, we'll be watching very closely and of course keen to reflect on maybe the first 100 days or so with you, Roger. So we'll be in touch as it unfolds. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Wonderful. That was Dr. Roger Gewolb. He's the leader of the Campaign for Fair Finance and also former BOE advisor.